Hey everyone, Joe Carroll here on the Produce Like a Pro channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have the IK Multimedia ARC Studio. ARC stands for Advanced Room Correction. So it's no secret that most every room, whether we're in a hotel room working on the go, whether we're in our spare bedroom, home office, bonus room working, or even in a professional environment like this, our biggest challenge as mix engineers at whatever level we're working, whether it's a hobby or whether we're professional, is the acoustics of the room that we're in. We all know that's a problem. Most of us are working in rooms that don't have thousands of dollars worth of acoustic designs and treatment in them. So we're stuck with 8-foot ceilings, we're stuck with weird shapes, sizes, windows and doors that we maybe just can't do anything about. Desks, reflections from desks, even analog consoles like this in this studio. So there's a lot of battles and a lot of challenges to getting the best out of our speakers. We all know this. And that doesn't matter if the speaker is $200 or $20,000. The same, you know, the space that the speakers are in is the challenge, getting the most out of them. So most of us are aware that there has been software developed that we can use on our master fader. And most of us that have tried it, you know, there's some of us that like it, obviously. But the biggest complaint, and it's no surprise, is the fact that you have to toggle it off and on, off and on, off and on. And you're invariably going to forget, and you're going to send a mix out that has a huge spike or something at 350 hertz, because that's what the room correction software is getting rid of or adding, you know, that type of a thing. If it's as good as advertised, it's only $300 in the US. So $300, we get a hardware box, a calibrating microphone that we can use in our room. We can take it on the go. It stores multiple settings for multiple sets of speakers. You can design it for the sweet spot. You can tell it, no, I want it to also sound great for the client, so it can take into account a bigger area. There's lots of really cool things from what I can tell. However, I haven't used them. So I'm actually looking forward to hearing the results. I did a video, you may have seen it, a couple weeks ago on the channel, that has a light version of the ARC built into the little MK Studio speakers, and it was exceptionally good. So this should be next level good. Let's get this thing out of the box. Haven't even had it out of the box yet. And inside, we get a nice little reminder of the order of events to do things. So here is the box itself. It's very small, but seems fairly significant for its size. There we go. A USB connection, power, USB power, and 2 XLRs in and out, and then a couple lights and one button on the front. Nice. All the magic is happening on the inside. Got our power cable. We'll have to get an extension cord. We can set that up here on the console behind me. And then this last bit should be the microphone. The thing about the microphone, the software is going to be looking for this mic. It knows the sonic characteristics of this mic and then accounts for it. So let's set it up. All right, guys, I've got everything out of the box, everything installed, and I did have a little faux pas, we'll call it, while I was installing the ARC software that I should mention to you so you don't make the same mistake and waste 30 minutes of your time getting mad when it's my fault. All right, so I registered the software and was logged into my account on the IK Multimedia website. Couldn't find the ARC software. That's because the ARC software is on your, the installation app that's separate. That most companies have that now. You have a separate app that's the installer for Stephen Slade, SSL, you name it. IK Multimedia has theirs as well. Once I launched that, there it was, downloaded it, and life is good once you do things properly. So don't make the same mistake that I made. Other than that, we have the mic plugged in to the SSL interface, and you can see I've got phantom power on, and I see metering here, I see a light there. I've already got it set to ear height. Take a look at the screen here and walk us through our installation, our process. Step number 2, we choose our microphone, and we can see we have the black one here that's the default. Let's see, input and output device, yep, the SSL MK2, input number 1, yep. Okay, so everything is looking good. I can see the microphone level reaching. We have different room settings, listening environments that we can choose from. And you can see we can choose Project Studio, which is kind of like a home or a hotel room or something if you're just working on a desk like this and your speakers are just right there on it. You can also see here it accounts for a normal studio. It says studio monitor spot. And it'd be like this, where we have our console, or our speakers are mounted on stands. If we don't have an analog console, maybe we have some kind of work surface with control surfaces and things like that. Studio wide area. Okay, this could be really useful for me in this room. For example, a lot of times my assistant is sitting here and I'm sitting right here, and we both want to hear great. Or I'm sitting here with a producer or an artist listening to playback. So this gives us a wider sweet spot, which is pretty cool. The studio back area, so that I don't have a couch in this studio as you see in the picture, but if I do often have musicians hanging out back here listening to playbacks. So that's interesting. And then the home theater type environment. Let's choose, for this room, I think I'm going to choose wide area. That may not be the best thing for the test, but that's the most real use for this room. So let's choose that. Okay, mic, yes, is at the proper level. And we're going to play a test. It says, make sure you are in a quiet environment. Try to avoid noise, lower your monitoring to a minimum level, and press play test. Okay, so what I'll do, I have a couple interfaces back here, Pro Tools interfaces that are making some noise, so I'll just turn those off. And we'll have it very quiet in here this way. There we go. So let's hit play test, turn the playback volume up. It says into, like your normal mixing monitoring level. So let's check that. Okay, now let's move ahead. Okay, so we can choose between a quick 7-point test or an advanced 27 or a 21-point test. Okay, the difference is, so instead of 7 individual testing zones, you raise it up or down, and check in 3 different levels. Okay, all right. So we're going to choose that one. And the different levels, so we're going to move it up or down about 6 inches. Yeah, I mean, it looks ready to go. So layer 1, it says to do first, is 6 inches below ear level. All right. So let's see. Let's go to about right here or so. All right. Let's put it right here in the sweet spot where our head would be. Let's move this chair out of the way. Okay. Let's try this thing. Measure level 1. Make sure, it says to make sure the room correction button is not engaged, and it is not. Capture point 1. Are you ready for this, Max? Max is our camera guy, and I know he loves that sweeping whip whip sound. He's a big fan. So here we go. All right, point number 2, it looks like to move it forward a little bit. All right, and we're going to do a lot of these, so this part we will probably be skipping ahead or fast forwarding. Here we go. All right, next is layer 2. So we will come up to ear level and be about 6 inches higher or so than we are now, and do the same set of tests. All right. Next, we're going to do the upper level, measure layer 3, which is exactly 6 inches higher than that, approximately, not exactly. Bam. Next, to proceed. All right, you're almost there. You can now save your room analysis and use it on the ARC4. Please choose a name for this correction profile and select a reference speaker icon. Okay, so what we have in this tracking room is the Atom A77. So that's actually a four-way. There's two subs, two 7-inch subs, a 3-inch mid-range, and a tweeter. So that's going to be probably closest to, I guess that guy right there. We're going to call it Downtown Studio. All right. And save it. Holla. This room analysis has been saved and is ready for use in the ARC4 correction plugin. Click Quit to close ARC or click New Analysis. No, I do not want to do another analysis. All right, so I've captured everything, so I'm going to turn phantom power off and unplug the correction mic. And I'm going to plug in my phone so I can play iTunes or Apple streaming or Spotify to listen to some stuff that I know and love, and go from there. We look at the screen and you see ARC4. So there's two pieces of software that comes with it. One is clearly labeled analysis, and that is where you use the microphone and get the measurements of all the blips and all that good stuff, and that's how it examines your room. So then you launch ARC4 like we did right here, and not to talk like an expert because this is my first time using this, but let's see. Okay, so down here in the bottom left-hand corner, you see it says neutral. Look, right there, bam, Downtown Studio. Oh, okay, all right. Interesting. Okay, so the left is in orange. Okay. And the right is in kind of that yellow. So we'll see the differences. We're pretty good. It looks like from the 10K to, dB or two. That's not, and especially if it's broad, is pretty common. But, you see from about 1 to 10, it's not terrible. But you'll see at a little under 500, we have about a 4 dB bump and a couple fairly significant notches and bumps just going, back to back to back to back. And at 50, it looks like just a little bit above 50 cycles, we have a really nice hump here, which I know for a fact that the bottom end, because before we started rolling, I brought up iTunes and started playing some music, and because I hadn't been in this room in a couple of weeks because of Christmas, and it reminded me of the significant amount of bottom end in here. Okay, so that said, this is what it's going to try to do to correct it, is this white line is our target. So we can choose a flat listening room, but a lot of times it comes with this. You see the standard control room has a little bit of a bottom end bump, but you can choose various things or create your own lively room. See, we got a little top end roll off here. Lively room 2, roll off on the top end, but not quite as much. Control room contour. See, I don't even know what that means, but nonetheless, warm tilt. You can kind of see it cuts a couple dB on the top end and boosts about 1 dB on the bottom end. But let's just go with default, where it's cutting top end a little bit and boosting the bottom end a little bit, and let's just trust that it knows what it's doing. But I can see, let's see. Okay, studio monitors, yeah. So you got different ones you can choose from. TV speakers, bookshelf speakers, NS10 styles. Lots of different things you can choose. Very cool. But we'll keep the virtual monitoring off because it's cool that we can figure out, we can use this to listen as if we were hearing it on NS10s or TV speakers or whatever the case may be. But you can see it's doing a lot of correction already. So let's do this. Let's go into the edit mode up here and let's play with these as we choose, if we want to choose here. And you can see, let's see, where right here is our biggest issue. Let's see. I think you have to drag these points fairly tight if you want to, yeah, you can see it's analyzing on the go, and I may have gotten a little carried away with that because now there's a little, you know, like about a dB of reduction around 80 cycles, which I probably wouldn't want, you know, in a control room where, because a lot of kicks, right? A lot of kick information is there. You can see the green is what the control room was, and this orange yellow, you know, is what it's correcting, is pretty significant, and it's kind of recalculating as we go. You know, before I get too carried away with any of that stuff, let's just kind of hear what it wanted to do, and let's turn the editing off and just hear it in its natural form. We're going to hit correction here in a second, but first I want to hear a song that I know. And I used this one in a speaker video just the other day. And it's called He Would by Mackenzie Johnson. It's something that I mixed, and I know where the bottom end and all that kind of stuff lives on it. So it'll be a good one for me to reference. So if we look at the screen capture, what we can see is that it checked out this room, and everything is starting around 1K and above, especially peaking, you know, somewhere around 500, all the way down to 50 cycles. It was pretty irregular and had some pretty big spikes, you know, ranging from around 3 to 5 dB. There were some dips as well, but really it almost never went below the unity line. So if anything, what these speakers in this room were giving us is too much low-mid information. So that said, listening to this song and engaging the correction button, I don't notice it thinning out the mids as much. I mean, that's what it's doing, obviously, but more or less my ears are picking it up as more detail and clarity in everything above 1K. As we can see on the graph right here, it was already pretty flat, and it's doing a little extra work on it, but for the most part, that everything above 1K to 10K was pretty good. But because the low mids are under control, I'm hearing the separation, I'm hearing the clarity and the definition in the upper mids now that was being masked by the low mids, if that makes sense. All that to say, also the bottom end sounds tighter. It absolutely sounds tighter. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot less. It just sounds a little more focused, if that makes sense. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up another song or two. I think it was in here when we did the speaker video with IK Multimedia's MTM MK2s. We used this song here. And this is Jackie Rain, an artist out of Los Angeles, pop artist, and I mixed a song called Up for Life. Let's see if I can find that. Up for Life. That I really know where the bottom end of that one's set, as well as the clarity. Some things I did with the vocals that I just really, you know, very, I remember it very well, so it'd be a good one for me to test.
You always play like you don't care about me. You don't care.
Okay, so interesting. Do you remember we chose the wide setting? So you can, if you know you're working alone in your bedroom, you can choose that preset, right? And you can get all your measurements to just making it sound as good in this spot as possible. However, as we discussed earlier, this is a commercial studio. It's a tracking space. We do orchestras in here. We do rhythm sections. A lot of times there's multiple people listening at one time. So I chose the wide environment. If you remember, it had me get not screen captures, but analysis, everything from the sweet spot to like leaning over the console for a producer and engineer together, or a mix engineer and his assistant, wide, and even in the back, and up and down. Remember that? Okay, so the differences that I was noticing a while ago in the low end were magnified when I stood up. So in other words, this room had more inaccuracies at this level than it did right here, which those of us that work in this room all the time know that's a thing. And it's definitely correcting it. And another thing that I found interesting, and maybe because I chose the wide preset, is that the amount of phasing, the relationships that I'm hearing, normally, as you stand right here, you're further away from one speaker to another, the distance from the echo off the off the console, you know, all that acoustic stuff, were radically better with the core, with the you know, with the correction. So I could stand here and it still sounded like I was more in the sweet spot than it did without the correction, which is key for a room like this. Again, this is a commercial room, so I may be sitting here working, but I have the drummer standing over my shoulder listening to the track that he just banged out, you know, the bass player standing over my shoulder, the producer standing behind us. I mean, that's just the way a room like this works. So that said, I think it's just such a cool product, and you can store multiple settings in it. So what I'm likely to do, rather than just leave it down here, you know, the reason I wanted to do it down here is because my mixer room at home that you guys are used to seeing on camera has a lot of money and time and thought put into the acoustics of the listening environment. Nonetheless, I want to do my own test up there and just see how much it changes, because this may be one of those things where I either buy another one and have one down here and at home, or take it around town, because you can store numerous presets if you get there early enough to grab the room capture, and you go back in there, you know, you just choose which preset you know that you've modeled, which room, because a lot of us work in the same rooms over and over, even if we room hop, we happen to hop around the same 3 or 4 rooms a lot. So it's a very cool product, very noticeable, and here's the big deal to me, $300. So the room correction software that I was talking about that a lot of us don't like, not that it doesn't do a good job, but that you have to remember to take it in and out, whether or not you're listening or you're printing. And also the delay that it causes can be pretty massive, if you've ever heard it, where you bypass the plug-in and all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, you know, it's like a record skipping. This was like, it's instant, like the delay is non-existent, which I think is really cool. But I can't make any mistakes. You know, I can't make any mistakes and send the wrong file to mastering to a client for referrals, references, that kind of a thing. It's just going to be back there quietly doing what it does for only $300. I think it's a real winner that a lot of us should really consider, because again, most of us are working in rooms that need help. Spare bedrooms, offices, they were never intended to be a great sounding studio. And I don't think this takes the place of acoustic treatment, but most of us don't have enough. I mean, that's just the way it is, right? Maybe we put foam here or there or whatever, but the room dimensions, even if we have some foam or some insulation, various panels hanging, you know, we're also bound by doors and corners and the dimensions of the room, and this will help really minimize the problems of those square bedrooms. So very cool product. IK Multimedia ARC Studio, very pleased with what just happened here. Thank you for watching.